Welcome to another Audiophile Barista review. Today I am reviewing one of the many BBC LS3 5A replicas. This time it is the SoundArtist LS3 5A. So this is the SoundArtist LS3 5A. This design started life in the early 70s as the BBC LS3 5. And in every review you see about this loudspeaker they will say it is a legend or an icon or something like that. And I just did the same. But why is that? I mean, it's just a tiny two-way loudspeaker, right? Well no, there definitely is a reason that this little loudspeaker is carrying this label. Let's go back in time a little bit. In the early 70s the BBC needed a small monitor for their live, on-location broadcasts, and because they wanted the same sound in their studios, they set out to design a loudspeaker that would perform as well on location as in the radio studios all over the country. Now, because this loudspeaker was to be used in their smallish BBC broadcast vans, the monitor had to be small. So why did this little monitor become a legend? Well, one of the main goals was that they wanted these loudspeakers to sound exactly the same everywhere in the country. Not only in looks, but also in measurements and sound. Not just similar, no. They wanted every monitor in the country to be exactly the same. So in order to achieve that level of quality, they were looking for consistency and repeatability. And at the end of this quest they had used a budget of 100,000 British pounds. Now remember, that is 100,000 British pounds in 1972. In today's money that will be over $1.5 million. Nobody is doing that nowadays. So for this money, every single part of the loudspeaker was tested for sound quality. I mean every single part. For example, they had endless discussions about the kind of fabric that had to be used for the protective grills in front of the loudspeakers. And the grill is supposed to be on when you are listening, because only then does it sound like they intended to. So maybe that is why it's so difficult to take off the grill. Let's see if we can take off these grills. That is... This is not easy. This sounds terrible. Even the screws they used for mounting the crossover transformers were tested. Yes, they actually tested how tight you had to screw the transformer to the case for best sound quality. Now that is dedication. So after making this great little monitor, it took them another 2 years to write it all down in a report that could be used to actually make this monitor. Remember, this is the BBC. They only wanted the best and money was not an issue. They did make a batch of these monitors for themselves, of course, before the report was done, and those were called the LS3 5. And they used a particular type of KEF driver for these LS3 5s. Now these LS3 5s were not for commercial use. But apparently after a few years they probably thought, well, these sound quite nice, why not make these available for regular customers? So they went to KEF asking for a lot more of those particular drivers that they had designed their 100,000 pound loudspeaker around, and KEF said, we don't make those drivers anymore. So the BBC said, well, can't you remake them for us? We have just spent $1.5 million designing a loudspeaker with that particular driver. But KEF said, nope, sorry. So the BBC was forced to pick a new driver from the current production line, and so the LS3 5A was born. By the way, LS stands for loudspeaker, not very original but very effective. The 3 is because this was the third model in the BBC range of loudspeakers, and the 5 is BBC code for outside broadcast. Now let's have a closer look at these loudspeakers. The pair that I have are made in rosewood and they look pretty stylish. They have a frequency response of 70 Hz to 20,000 Hz, so the bass is not their biggest asset, but that's also something you can't expect from a smaller loudspeaker like this. Sensitivity is 83 dB, so they do appreciate some power, and according to the specs they like some 50 to 150 watts of power, and this is an 11 ohm design. They weigh in just over 5 kilo each and they stand 30 centimeters tall. But the big question of course is, how do they sound? Well, they sound very good, but also not. Remember, I have never heard the original LS3 5A, so I can only go by this SoundArtist version. And the short version is that they sound very good, especially with voices. They really pull you into the music. The other side of the short version is that they do sound a bit dark, a bit muffled. They don't give you that big bass extension, but that's not the fault of this loudspeaker, of course. You won't get massive bass out of a package this small. The bass that you get is very satisfying though. Also, my room is not suited to these small loudspeakers. Remember, these were designed to be used in a small space like a broadcast fan, and they give you more bass when put close to the wall. Now my room is too big and I can't, or better yet, I won't place them close to the wall. But again, that's not the fault of this fine little loudspeaker. So as you can hear, they sound pretty good in my room, but this is not the best place for this loudspeaker. So I tried them in my office setup. It is a much smaller room and I'm using a SML AD18 Class D amplifier DAC with USB input. Unfortunately, this combination did not work. Whether it was because of Class D or just the combination with this specific SMSL amplifier, I don't know. But all the magic was gone immediately, so this was a short-lived experiment. I did improvise a close-up setup in my living room with much better amplification and sources, and that was a much better experience. This taught me two things about this loudspeaker. They prefer a smaller room or a closer listening position, and they do react to the kind of equipment that you put in front of it. Connected to my iTos tube setup, they sounded really wonderful, but at some 15 times the new price, that is probably not what you should do. I played them with the SA200IA amplifier, that is also from SoundArtist. I did a review on this amp, so check it out if you are interested. And this combination was also very fine, especially considering this amp sells for just under 300 bucks. Of course I played them with my British quad systems, and I played them with the Wilsonton R8 tube amplifier. I also did a review on that one. Make sure to check it out. And this combination with the Wilsonton R8 was really heavenly. This combo can be called affordable, I guess, and it will have you enjoying the music for a very long time before you start looking for upgrades. Now plug in a good source and I guarantee many late night listening sessions that will be very rewarding. So all in all, this is a very good loudspeaker that will give you a lot of satisfaction and a lot of good music. A wide soundstage, if not too deep, and placement is pretty good. However, if you want ridiculous bass or insane volumes, please do not buy this loudspeaker. It is not what you are looking for. Okay, before I conclude this review, there is one more thing I need to say. As you may know, there are a lot of BBC LS3 5A versions on the market. The BBC was of course not a loudspeaker building company, so what they did is they licensed companies to build these little loudspeakers under their own brand name, but they had to be built completely to specs. Remember that report that they used 2 years to create? Well, that is also the manual for building these speakers. Now these SoundArtist loudspeakers are not licensed. This is just a copy. It is not built to specs and it has its own sound. But they are also a lot cheaper than the licensed versions, and as far as copies go, this is a great copy. So in conclusion, I think this is a great little loudspeaker that is totally worth the money. Now it can't be perfect of course for this kind of money, so it's not for everybody. But if you like a loudspeaker that can sound very intimate, is great with voices, has a pretty good sound taste, and will really invite you to sit down, listen to the music and enjoy the sound, this is the perfect little loudspeaker for you. If my budget was around $2,000, I would pick this SoundArtist LS3 5A, a Wilsonton R8 tube amp, some good cables, and just enjoy the music. Thank you for watching.